All right, welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is a Wednesday, November 12th. We are getting into the end of the close after the bell. We got three earnings: D-Local, Cisco, and another one that I can't think of. Oh, Serv Robotics. So D-Local, Serv Robotics, and Cisco. Those are three companies we'll look at. Let me know if anyone has a position in any of those three companies, but we will get to those after the bell. We got some macro data, folks. We got a lot to talk about. Overall, what's going on today? It's a red day for sure, but it's a red day in specific names. The S&P 500 is green, 683.36. We're green on the S&P. I don't know necessarily why we're green. I have some theories about it, but the individual stocks that may be upsetting people, like a Nebius that's down 7%, or a CoreWeave that's down 3%, or a Palantir that's down 4%, Iren down 4%. Nvidia is kind of trying to break even, to be honest. It was down 2%. Now it's barely down 50 cents. None of that matters to the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is green. And the reason for this might be because JP Morgan is catching a bid today in the financial sector. JP Morgan up 2% on the day. And Eli Lilly is trying to get to all-time highs, 1,017. That's up 2.87%. I think the first thing to start off with on today is that this feels like a very, very healthy move in a bull market. Even though Palantir is not going to the moon right now, to see some of that money go into a Lilly or a JP Morgan or just consumer defensive staples, that is not a bad thing to see. And the fact that we are actually going green on the S&P 500 while Nvidia is red is really proving to me. I mean, we saw a little bit of this yesterday, but I think today is kind of doubling down on this idea that we are getting a rotation. That rotation is very healthy and normal. And it is good to see other parts of the market begin to participate. Having said that, you do have some stocks that are getting hit today. Meta, 609, obviously getting wrecked, 2.82%. All the data center plays are getting hit. CoreWeave, Nebius, Iren, etc. I did buy a little bit of Nebius at 93.90. 93.90, did not buy a ton, but I bought a little. I also bought a little bit of Zeta at around 1980. It's not a big position. I'll put out the one pager tomorrow on how I'm thinking about it. But very little, a little bit of Zeta, and that's just kind of like a tracking position in the portfolio, and I'll do a lot more research on terms of what I'm seeing there. But Nebius was the dip buy at 93.90. I think we got all the way down to like 92 at one point. We didn't really violate 92. And so if we close above 94, I think that would be very bullish. Again, that's the technical spot where we need to hold. But why is Nebius down? Why is CoreWeave down? Why is Iren down? The reason all these names are down is because of, in my opinion, Oracle, which is getting hit right now, down 4% on the day. This is the worst of the data center plays, even though it's not necessarily just a data center play. It's more of a cloud computing play. But because they issued $40 billion of debt and the street's not liking the debt financing, that's probably why Meta's getting hit as well. Now, I was looking at some of Meta's details on the debt, and it's very attractive. And it makes sense why it would be attractive in terms of debt financing terms, because it's freaking Meta, and they have all the capital in the world, along with Google, to be able to get attractive terms. But Oracle does not. And so I think the drawdown we're seeing today in these data center plays, which, yes, is annoying, and yes, it sucks, it also, to me, is probably par for the course when it comes to the rotation of this bull market, people selling off a Nebius, a CoreWeave, an Iren, a Cypher, and going into a JP Morgan or an Eli Lilly. So I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world, but nonetheless, that is happening. Bro Hizzle says, healthy, deep breath. Yes, we are getting a lot more breadth versus depth in this market. And quite frankly, for the past 9 months, we've had a lot of depth when it comes to tech. It's time to get a little bit more breadth, and I think that's what we're seeing here today. Now, one of the things that's not going to help the breadth or depth of this market is a lack of data. Here is what the White House had to say today about what's going to happen with this October data.
Shutdown could end up decreasing fourth quarter economic growth by 2 whole percentage points. The Democrat shutdown made it extraordinarily difficult for economists, investors, and policymakers at the Federal Reserve to receive critical government data. The Democrats may have permanently damaged the federal statistical system, with October CPI and jobs reports likely never being released. And all of that economic data released will be permanently impaired, leaving our policymakers at the Fed flying blind at a critical period.
Now, that's not hurting Opendoor. The reason Opendoor is pumping, by the way, is because Kaz just bought $1 million of stock at $8. That was officially disclosed. And I think that's what's helping Opendoor. Opendoor up 10% on the day. By the way, Oklo also up 8%. So, I'm talking about the breadth of the market, and you got names like Meta and Palantir that are down on the day. And then you have names like Oklo and Opendoor that are up on the day. Doesn't necessarily scream rational to me, but nonetheless, that is the state of what we have in this market. What does it mean for the government data? By the way, Bitcoin right here below 102. I think the October data is pretty bad, guys. I mean, you would not have the White House come out and say that the October data will never be released if the data was amazing. If we were adding, hundreds of thousands of jobs or something like that, the market probably would want to see that data, and the White House would not be afraid to show that data. By the way, I think I showed you guys this stat in the morning, but private payrolls from the ADP came out and said that their new estimates are showing a decrease of 11,250 jobs per week in the month of October. That would be negative 45,000, the second largest drop since 2020. Goldman Sachs estimated that we would fall about 50,000 in the month of October. So obviously the labor market data is not looking the best. That is your bull case for the rate cut, but the White House not wanting to release it probably shows that it's not the best. It also questions, or it makes you question, the trustworthiness of the data going into November. And granted, maybe we haven't been tracking CPI and the jobless claims as well, and so we need another month to get it done. But if we're not going to get the most accurate data in November, it's just another kind of hiccup for the market to have to navigate, especially when the market's already feeling a little bit uneasy on some of the corporate debt financing, and they might want a little more data to understand it. UNH, by the way, great day for UNH. We'll see after the bell if we get any of these super investor disclosures. We got a couple today. Nothing too crazy. I went through about 4 or 5 of them, and I didn't see anything that really stood out. UNH right there up 4% on the day. Again, Open Doors up on the day. Oklo is up on the day. And then AMD having a great day. AMD was at 263, right now at 257, which is very nice to see. The Q's going green. Q's going green, 621. That's up. And the S&P 500 going green. I don't know how Robinhood ended up green for the day, but Robinhood's up almost 2%. S&P 500 now breaking 684. And then you got Rocket Lab that was up 7% and it's down 1%. Again, very kind of wonky market reaction in a variety of different ways. But I think the overall trend at its core is that you're seeing a rotation. And I don't think that rotation is horrible. SoFi, by the way, 32. I don't think SoFi's ever closed above 32. Got to 32.70 today. Would be very nice to see if SoFi can get that close above 32. Microsoft as well back to 511. So we got about 7 minutes left. And if we can get that close, that would be very nice. Okay, poll in the chat. So there's only 3 stocks on earnings today: dLocal, Serv, and Cisco. I'll put which one do you think outperforms. Let me know which positions you guys have. dLocal is more of a FinTwit favorite, or a retail favorite, if I'm not wrong. Which one outperforms? dLocal. SBED does have earnings, but I don't think we're going to get anything specific from SBED other than more disclosures of their ETH holdings. Serv, I've actually seen so many times. They make the robots for the Uber Eats and stuff, like the things that automatically or autonomously deliver you the food. Don't know enough about their financials, but you have Serv, you have Cisco, and then dLocal. Cisco, obviously a massive player in networking, especially with data centers. Wow, Cisco up 3% on the day. Look at that. Street's expecting a little bit of love off of Cisco, and we're going to see what that looks like. Open Door right here up 9%, UNH up 4%, AMD up 8.6%, Zeta up 3.28%. Bought Zeta at 1980 today. We did a really good deep dive, in my opinion, with Ronnie. So if anyone wants to listen to that, that's on my Twitter Spaces. And I think he made a pretty compelling case. So for anyone to check that out, the main reason I bought a little bit today is just because valuation looks very compelling in a market that is a bit more expensive. And so the growth estimates on top of the valuation, to me, made it at least worthy of a starter position. Nebius right there, 94.68. Again, I did buy the dip at 93.90. Closing above 94 would be super bullish to see if we can reverse a little bit of the downtrend. But you do have a red Nebius on the day. PayPal, that's down 0.5%. Xpeng's down a little bit. Grab's down 1%. C Limited, that's up a little bit. And then Ethereum right there at 3,400. I did not buy the dip on Meta today. Meta looks like it wants to go below 600. I don't know if we'll get there. The fact that Meta's back to levels that we saw on Friday, not fully, right? On Friday, we saw like 600. Right now, we're at 608. But the fact that the market's up and Meta's actually trying to get back to that level is quite incredible. It means the street is just not messing with the Meta narrative right now. And again, I think part of the reason is because of what's going on with corporate debt. By the way, real quick before we talk about Burry, because there's a big update on Michael Burry, take a look at this chart right here. This is Oracle stock versus Oracle credit default swaps. The credit default swap is the protection against their corporate debt defaulting. The stock price, as you can obviously see, has been going down. So you have a level of alignment between investors thinking, hey, maybe we want to be a bit more cautioned around the debt that Oracle is taking out versus, just saying that the stock's going to go to the moon because they're going to get this amazing ROIC on all the invested capital in regards to data centers. I think the stock price action is clearly telling you not that it's bearish that Oracle is doing this, but that the market's not willing to give it a $350 price target, which again, Nebius is not at 130, CoreWeave's not at 150, but they're at 280, 95, Oracle at 226. I just don't think that's the craziest thing in the world, especially if the sort of trade-off is that Eli Lilly gets to make all-time highs, which is a stock that needs to participate in this bull market. And it's nice to see that it is participating. Open Door right there, 10.9% on the day, 940. Again, the CEO bought $1 million worth of stock today. I think that's one of the reasons it's pumping. Microsoft at 511. Where is SoFi? Are we trying to go for that $32 close? SoFi, 32.28, up 4.5%. It is trying to get that close at 32. I do not have Ondas, but they did have earnings today. I really didn't get to look at their numbers, down about 4.8%. But that stock is down. CleanSpark down 5% after their convertible note offering. Intel's basically flat. Beyond Meat down 8% on the day. And then Amazon, wow, broke 245, 243.95 right there. And that is red. Okay, Michael Burry. Remember a couple of days ago when he said wait for November 25th because November 25th was supposed to be something really important? Well, I just looked at his Twitter bio 30 minutes ago, which is constantly changing. And here's what it says. Now Unchained blog launches November 25th. Stay tuned. So I guess it's a blog. Ondas is tomorrow. Okay, cool. So I guess it's dumping a little bit before earnings tomorrow. So we'll cover it tomorrow. I guess it's a blog, folks. I guess it's a blog. I mean, now, could he still be super bearish about AI and everything that's going on? Sure. But if this was for publicity, I mean, my goodness, bro, if this was for publicity. So Now Unchained blog launches November 25th. Stay tuned. I guess we'll see what the blog ends up looking like. Maybe the blog is like an anti-AI blog and he just keeps publishing research every week about how much he hates the blog. I mean, or how much he hates AI. But I guess he's trying to become a content creator and he's trying to build a personal brand and social media. I like, dude, when I saw that, first of all, did I not say it was a book? I was off. It was a blog, apparently, not a book, but I felt like it was a freaking book. And apparently it's a blog. So that's what you got. And we're going to see what ends up happening with Burry. Meta right here, 608, down about 3% of the day. Oracle down 4%. SoFi trying to get that $32 close. We got about a minute 30 until the market closes. Then we have some earnings. Quick macro stat I want to show you guys. In spite of the labor market, in spite of inflation, in spite of tariffs, as per Bloomberg, we talked about in the morning that institutional buyers bought $4.3 billion worth of equities, which is the highest since December 2022 in terms of equity ETFs last week. Bloomberg said ETF inflows are strong. Yesterday, there were 13 billion in inflows, 40 billion for the past 5 days, 8 billion per day. And now total is 1.16 trillion year to date across the entire ETF market in the United States. I mean, that is just absolutely incredible. And so, yes, we are seeing some hiccups in the labor market. We are seeing a lack of data to be able to make some accurate decisions on what's going on. But investors continue to buy. And in fact, retail and hedge funds were net sellers last week as of Bank of America. Institutional investors were net buyers, and they rotated from tech into staples and healthcare, which is very indicative of the price action we're seeing today with some of the tech stocks being down and some of the healthcare stocks and consumer defensives being up. So again, at the end of the day, there is a lot of macro data to come through, but you have investors that remain net bullish and they are allocating to those equity ETFs to get that exposure. Apple right there, 273. That's down 0.5%. CoreWeave down 3.2. Palantir was at 181, now at 184. That's down a little bit. NVIDIA just went green. Wow, into the close. NVIDIA going green. Again, we got 3 earnings that we're going to be looking at today. But it is nice to see NVIDIA and the S&P go green as we get into the close. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is a Wednesday, November 12th, 4 p.m., and the stock market is now closed. All right, we are done for the day. We are closed on a Wednesday. I will keep an eye on if we get any 13Fs and 13Gs after the bell. We obviously have earnings, so we'll look into that. NVIDIA went green at the close, 193.80. S&P 500, 683. It inched out green by 0.04%, which showed you a lot of that broadening trade as some market participants in the tech sector were down, but the S&P 500 was up. The Qs just went red at the close, tried to go green, down by about 50 cents on the day. Open Door, great day. That's up 10.5%. Nebius got the $94 close, which 94 is a very key level. So we'll see tomorrow if that can hold. But $94 close, very nice to see. 94.36 for Nebius, even though it was down 7% of the day. Robinhood went green, 132.98. Oklo up 6.5%. Bitcoin just below 102,000. CoreWeave was down about 3.35%. IREN down 3%. NVIDIA, again, 193.80. You had Grab, 579. That's down 1.5%. Tesla was down 2% from 440 to 430. HIMS down below 40 at $39. Delta at 60.48. That was actually up 4%. And then you had Palantir at 184.17, down 3.5. SoFi did get the $32 close. $32.21. I think, if I'm not wrong, this is the first time in history SoFi closed above 32. It touched 32 a couple times a week ago. And then this morning, then it fell below. And now it's holding 32. So congratulations to everyone in SoFi, 32.21. I did buy the dip last week at around 28. I know a lot of people bought the dip over the past couple of weeks. SoFi right here, 32.21, up 4% of the day. Yeah, Zeta closing above 20 is also really important. I mean, this thing touches 20 so many times, but then it falls back. So the fact that it actually made a move above 20 is very nice. That's up 3.36% on the day. BMNR, did we get red for the day? We actually got green. It was red an hour ago. 40.56 went to 39.42. That was up 2.4% as well. Okay, we have Serv Robotics. That is dumping. Serv, that's down 7%. Then we have Cisco. I'll get their numbers in a second. That's up a little bit. And then D-Local. Let me know which one of these stocks you guys are in, if people are in it. What did people say on the poll? 46% say Cisco will outperform, 22% say Serv, and then 32% say D-Local. Okay, well, what's going on with Serv? Let's see what's down. Serv right here down 7%. I see a lot of D-Los in the chat. Okay, so decent amount of people in D-Lo. Don't have their numbers yet. Let me see if we can get it. Circle did have earnings this morning. I don't know why they fell as hard as they did, but they ended up falling. I don't know enough about this business. I know it's in stable coins, but Circle right there down about 12% on the day. Serv right there down 3%. Wow, they missed by 69%, 54 cents versus 32 cents expected on the negative basis. So they lost more than expected. Revenue was 687,000 versus 691,000. They missed by 1% on EPS. EPS is down 170% year over year. Revenue is up 210% year over year. Is D-Lo pumping? D-Lo is dumping, down 5%. Down 5% on D-Lo. That one wow, now it's down 8%. Goodness gracious, this one's getting hit. Cisco is the only one that's holding on a little bit. Serv now down 9%. D-Lo down 6%. Don't have their earnings yet. I should be getting it very soon. Don't have it yet. It looks like it might have been a double miss, which could have been an issue. Wow, Fed President Collins, additional support risks stalling inflation progress. See relatively high bar for further easing near term. Fed's Collins favors holding rates steady for some time. Dude, if the Fed really is not going to cut rates in December, it complicates a lot of issues in this market. I cannot believe they're actually saying that we think it's not time to cut. They think inflation is more of a concern than the labor market right now. We're going to have to see. There needs to be a majority decision for the Fed to go one way or the other. It's not like a Supreme Court decision where the majority wins. So it's like we're really going to have to see what plays out. Serv right there down 7%. D-Local now down 9%. Again, the probabilities for a Fed rate cut are also the lowest it's been in the past couple of weeks, say at 65%. So that is still a question for December. D-Local still don't have the results, down 12%. Why is it getting hit this bad? Do I have the numbers? I don't have the numbers. The street wants 16 cents a share and then 262 million. 16 cents a share and 262 million. At least that's what the street is expecting on the top and the bottom line. Oh, is it coming back? Is it coming back to life? Fell to 13. I mean, maybe that dump was a head fake because there are no numbers. Serv also trying to come back a little bit. Now it's back down to 3%. This one's not easily making moves. Cisco is pumping. Cisco is pumping. Wow. Cisco doesn't move this often. Cisco is a stock from the 2000s. This one does not move like that. Wow. 5% on Cisco. It was already up 3% during the day. Let's see what these Cisco numbers are. And Cisco is a really important company in the context of networking for data centers. So them putting up really good numbers matters for the overall AI trade, even if they're not like the biggest AI player. Beat by 2% on EPS, $1 versus 98 cents. Beat by 1% on revenue, 14.8 billion versus 14.7. EPS is up 10% year over year. Revenue is up 8% year over year. Not massive beats, but they are indeed beats. Let me see if I can get some specific headlines from their investor page, but it's enough for the market to say, hey, we like it. We like it. Fiscal year adjusted EPS, $4 to 14. The street thought it was going to be $4 to 406. Okay. So adjusted EPS is higher than expected, likely because margins are better than expected. Margins going up is likely due to either a lot of demand or a lot more efficiency in the world of AI. 77.37. Wow. Cisco now year to date is up, without the after hours move, 25%. That's incredible. This is a name that doesn't move that often like that. D-Lo still getting hit, down 11%. I still don't have D-Lo numbers. Oh, I got them. D-Lo, it's a double beat. It's a double beat. 17 cents versus 16 expected. That's a beat by 6%. Revenue 282 versus 262. That's a beat by 8%. EPS is up 90% year over year. Revenue is up 52% year over year. What is the street upset about to take her down 7%? It's got to be something else in the data street's not happy with, but you got D-Local that's down. Serv Robotics is still down. And Cisco is green. No 13Fs yet after the bell. I'll keep an eye on them. We might get the majority of them tomorrow, but nothing yet after the bell. D-Lo down 7.4. Cisco still holding 4. Serv down 6. S&P moving a little bit after hours. So is Palantir. So is SoFi. Look at that. 32.33 on SoFi. Meta's up a little bit after hours. D-Local. Oh, did it come back? Wasn't it just down 11%? Wasn't it just down 11%? And now it almost just went green, dude. Now it's down 1%. Dude, can it actually go green? Can we actually do a reversal right here? That is incredible, dude. Still down 2%. There's that green candle. Dude, that is moving like crazy after hours. I think it went down before the double beat even came out. And now the double beat is out, but the street kind of likes it, kind of doesn't like it. Let's get to Cisco. Here's some coverage on what we're seeing on Cisco. And then we'll keep going from there.
Broadening out in the market.
Of the influence of these really huge
stock market, right? We all know he says it's volatility.
It's a beat across the board. So we'll start with $1 flat adjusted EPS, earnings per share. That was stronger than anticipated on revenues of $14.88 billion, also stronger than anticipated. We're talking about the Q2 EPS guidance. Keep in mind that this is, we're talking about the past Q1. So now this is the guidance for Q2. That range is higher than what the street anticipated. The same thing for the Q2 revenue guidance. Same thing for the full year guidance. And this guide is stronger, much stronger despite the government shutdown. Cisco does have a lot of exposure to the federal government in terms of sales. They did say in their earnings report, there's a quote from Chuck, the CEO, Chuck Robbins, who said that the widespread demand for their technologies playing a huge role, and they're seeing a lot of a multi-billion-dollar campus refresh opportunity starting to ramp up because of all the aging networking gear that needs to be revamped. So all of this helping shares go up 3.5%, guys.
Christina, thank you. Speaking of Chuck Robbins, don't miss the first on CNBC interview.
Okay, Cisco showing there's plenty of demand. I mean, I'll try to get some deeper numbers on what they're saying right here, but network equipment does eventually need to be replaced. And if you're upgrading a lot of these data centers, then maybe that is one of the bull cases for Cisco. Up 4% after hours. Serv still getting hit, down 5%. D-Local basically down 5%. Not really making a move up or down. But that is getting hit. Let me see if there's D-Local financials we can look at. Dude, the numbers on this, I don't know that much about this company, but the numbers on it look pretty freaking cool. Record-setting quarter, TPV record high of 10.4 billion, growing 60% year over year. Revenues up 52%. Gross profit 100 million. They are GAAP profitable. Net income up 93% year over year. We delivered another record quarter, the first time with TPV above US 10 billion and gross profit that surpassed US 100 million, and one more example of our strong growth and continued diversification, all of which underscore the potential and resilience of our business model, said the CEO of D-Local. Does Tanner like the stock? I think Tanner and Couch like this stock, right? Is this a name that they like? D-Local right here, down 5%. I mean, that looks like a pretty good quarter. Not sure why the stock is down. It's got to be something deeper for why the stock's getting hit. But that one's down. Couch likes it. I mean, dude, again, these stocks, like same thing with Nebius, right? Phenomenal quarter, got hit. If these stocks are going to go on a discount after a good quarter, definitely is worth looking at. Nebius right there, 93.82 after hours. Zeta down about 1% after hours. Palantir moving up a little bit, and then SoFi 32.29. That's what we've got. Because of margins. Yeah, I mean, like, well, I don't know what the margin comparison is. I'll try to take a look at that. But if they're going to take it down because of margins and ignore the growth, it means the street's more focused on efficiency versus top line growth, which is fine because, margin has been the story for all the EPS beats that we've seen. But in these early days, you're going to have to sacrifice some margin for growth if you are growing at 52%. The cool thing about Palantir is they're not sacrificing margin for growth, which is what the street really likes. S&P 500 right here, 683.59 after hours. Okay, so Cisco had a great quarter. That's up 5%. Serv Robotics, let me try to pull up them and see what they put out. Again, they did 670,000 in revenue. Not really the strongest, but I guess the other metrics matter a little bit more. Delivery volumes is up 66% quarter over quarter, 300% year over year. Multi-year strategic partnership with DoorDash launched in Chicago. Third quarter revenue of 687,000. That's up 2x year over year. Ended the quarter with strong liquidity of 210 million, and they raised 100 million through dilution. They have 1,000 robots deployed. Daily supply hours increased by over 713% compared to third quarter of 2024. Wouldn't this be a company that Uber eventually buys out? Like, this just feels like such an obvious buyout play for Uber. Market cap is less than $1 billion. I mean, Uber probably doesn't need to buy out because the partnership works so well with them, but eventually, if these guys actually can meaningfully grow, you would think that Uber would be a player to buy them. For those that don't know what the Serv Robotics look like, it's basically this thing going down your street, delivering you your food. So that's what that company basically does. Yeah, Uber or Lyft, right? At the end of the day. Open Door still moving after hours. CEO bought 1 million of stock. Market likes it. Open Door right there, down a little bit, up 10% on the day. Again, the co-founder of Open Door said that he will bet $100,000 with some Twitter account that it was just some Twitter account. I don't know the name of the person, but they made a public bet of $100,000 that Open Door will be more valuable than Shopify by 2032, which means Open Door would need a market valuation of around 200 billion. It's now at 7 billion. So maybe that also created a lot of excitement in shareholders because the co-founders, talking about a $200 billion market cap. Shopify right there, 156. That's down 1.4%. Meta, are we still red? A little bit of green after hours. Still an ugly day. That's down 2.8%. And SoFi still up. Firefly pumping, is that an earnings name today? Firefly, is that OTC? Firefly stock. This is FLY. Is that aerospace? Yeah, I think that's the aerospace one, right? Oh shit, it's up a lot after hours, up 13%. Year to date, they IPO'd in 2007. Year to date, it's down 70%. Today, it's up 13% after hours. Let's see if we can get it. Do they have earnings today? Is that why? Oh, look at that, 10.7% move. They IPO'd this year. Okay, Google lied to me. Or maybe it was a rebrand. I thought they IPO'd this year too. I remember hearing their name. Google saying they went public in 2007. They might have just recently IPO'd again. Yes, earnings, IPO 45. Okay, let's see if we can get some of the numbers on Firefly and what's going on here. Third quarter results, we have revenues up 98% quarter over quarter, 38% year over year. They closed an acquisition, $260 million revolving credit facility, 176 million contract from NASA, 10 million Blue Ghost mission. They reiterated the revenue guidance of 150 to 158 million for 2025. Okay, so you have a pretty big beat on revenue, new contract that they're confirming that they got from NASA. Revolving credit facility going up is always a good thing, means they have access to credit and liquidity, and guidance of 150 million. that continues to be green. All right, Firefly is up. I have not looked into this one. Firefly up 14% after. I mean, the stock was down 70% for the year, so they kind of had nowhere to go but up, right? If they at least had a decent earnings. Looks like earnings were decent. That stock right now up 14%. Again, Delo revenue beat, adjusted EBITDA 71 versus 69, GAAP EPS 18 versus 16 cents, TPV of 59% versus 53% from last quarter. Don't see why D-Local should be getting hit, but it is getting hit up 6%. Firefly up 17% after hours, as that one continues to go green. Grab did lose $6 today. Quick update on them. There was an article that came out around this whole GoTo saga. And basically, it showed that Anthony Tan is getting very serious about this acquisition, the CEO of Grab. So essentially saying that there's private meetings now going on between executive officials, and these meetings are influenced by SoftBank's decision to get rid of the CEO. I mean, it is a saga that we're going to have to see play out. I do think it re-rates the company. Maybe it doesn't, but I think towards the end of December, we're going to have a much better understanding of what's going on there. Meta right there, 609.30. Open Door down a little bit after hours. Nebius down a little bit as well. Firefly still going higher, 18%. As that one continues to go green. Serv Robotics, are we still getting hit? Serv Robotics down 3%. It was down 7%. And then Zeta, which again, about a little bit of today. Zeta right here, 2047. Basically green after hours. All right, that's what we got for earnings, folks. That's what we got today for earnings. I will check right now if we have any 13Fs that are updated. I'm not seeing anything too crazy. I have a couple sources. If we don't get it today, we'll likely get it tomorrow. Let's see if Bridgewater is out. This is Ray Dalio, even though he doesn't run it anymore. Bridgewater not out yet. Let's see, Howard Marks. Is that one out yet? Oak Tree Capital Management. That one's not out yet. We have a couple of other ones that I just see coming out. Don't know these people too well, but we do have a few of them. First Eagle Investment Management. They manage $54 billion. They have a lot of buys and sells. They sold some of their Oracle, sold some of their Meta, added more of their Google. This is all as of Q3. They bought Workday and Omnicom. Those are brand new buys. 2 million shares of Workday, 6 million shares of Omnicom. They bought Pan American Silver. Okay, getting into the commodities trade. This one manages a lot of different positions. Then they bought AIN and AEBI, which I don't know too much about. Seems like they sold off a decent amount of tech, or at least reduced their positioning in tech. And they reduced a little bit of their healthcare. HCA Healthcare was also a buy for them. We have another one coming in, Linsdale Train. These guys manage $4 billion. They added 10% to Google, reduced 7% of TKO, reduced 25% of eBay, reduced 1% of PayPal. They reduced a little bit of their Fair Isaac Corporation, FICO. They added Canadian Pacific. They added Estee Lauder. It's a great company. They sold a little bit of their Coke. They added 30% to Adobe. We all know Adobe's cheap. The question is cheap good, given the narrative on them? They sold 50% of their Oracle. And then they added 10% or 2% to their Equifax. Yeah, a lot of these funds, a lot. I mean, we ended Q3, September 30th? I would not be surprised to see Oracle on a list of the top most sold stocks in Q3 because it pumped to 350 on September 10th. Like, I would imagine some of these funds were like, hey, we're going to dump this stock because we bought it at 200 and it's at 300 in less than 24 hours. I mean, it would not be crazy to see that they might have done that. Here's another one, Kahn Brothers Group. They manage $530 million. Again, none of the super big names like the Ackmans or Buffetts of the world, but you do have some of these smaller funds. They bought Seaport Entertainment Group. They bought MBIA. They bought American Express. They bought NVIDIA. They bought Brookfield. Those were the main buys. They added 90% to their Google as well. 90% to their Google as well. For those that are new here and don't understand how to pronounce Estee Lauder, again, I really don't know how to help you. Like, it's not that hard, but you do have to really look into your soul to understand how to correctly pronounce some of these companies. And I'm not an English teacher, so I'm not going to be here to teach you, but I feel like the constant complaining of this stuff is not productive. All right, here's another one. 9.3 billion fund, Thomas Russo. They added Heineken, they added Berkshire, they sold 10% of Google, 3% of MasterCard, 4% of Philip Morris. They sold 4% of DoorDash, added 1% of Exxon, added 1% of Union Pacific, 20% of SSPF. We're not seeing a lot of crazy names. We're seeing a lot of other parts of the market that are, not super tech, not super growthy, but nonetheless, you're seeing some. You're seeing some rotations to them, which actually, like, they bought Caterpillar. I mean, that goes into that trend again of a healthy rotation that is not crazy to see. And then they added a little bit to Truist, which is a regional bank. Those are most of the 13 Fs. We're not getting Ackman, Tepper, Buffett, none of those yet. It might come out tomorrow. If we do get them, we'll talk about it, but so far not yet. Okay, the Epstein stuff. So we talked about it in the morning. Some leaked emails came out. Trump has commented on it on Truth Social. And, well, he said it's a Democratic hoax. So basically he came out and said that the Democrats are trying to, let me get the exact quote, but he said the Democrats are trying to ignore the shutdown and convince the American people that the Epstein thing matters more. In other words, Democrats are using the Jeffrey and Epstein hoax to try and deflect from their massive failures, in particular the most recent one, the shutdown. He then went on to say, the Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how bad they've done on the shutdown and many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. The Democrats cost our country $1.5 trillion with the recent antics of viciously closing our country. Caroline Leavitt did say that GDP growth might be down 2% in Q4 because of the shutdown, while at the same time putting many at risk, and they should pay a fair price. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else. And any Republicans involved should be focused on only opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. D-Local still down 7%. Fly still up 15%. Serv down 3%. And then Meta up a little bit. So you got the Trump administration trying to navigate those headlines, but you do have a lot of those headlines after the bell that's playing out. BMNR, 40.93. That's green. 40.93. All right, put in the chat if you bought the dip on anything today. I bought a little bit of Nebius and a little bit of Zeta. That's pretty much it. But let me know in the chat if people bought any of the dip. I mean, if it was even a dip. Again, some stocks took a dip. S&P was green, Nvidia was green, so Meta definitely had a dip today. But curious to see if people actually took some dips. Oh, did Flutter have earnings today? Flutter, that's a big gambling stock. Let me see if I can pull them up. I see a lot of VG. I see a lot of Nebius. We have Doug with Nebius, Jonathan, DC8 and Duolingo. I see a ton of Irens. I see a ton of Big Bear AIs. That one had a great day as well. Flutter is down 3% after hours, by the way. It looks like their earnings were pretty good. We'll look at it. Actually, no, it looks like it was bad. It looks like they missed on a couple estimates. Big Bear ended on the day, 15%? Barron's called them a smaller Palantir, 18% of the day. So that probably caught some headlines. I see a ton of BMNRs, Celsius, Pfizer, Hims, CoreWeave. Chris made this AI VG video. He put his podcast with him and Matt last night into some, what does Google call it? A notebook LLM. And it was a pretty good, it was like a 7-minute summary of the earnings recap. And it was actually phenomenal. So shout out to Google Notebook LLM. That thing is pretty incredible. But I do see some VGs right here. ASST, how is that one doing? 129, that was down 5%. I think Nebius is the biggest one I'm seeing out of all these. Nebius and Meta. Those are the main ones that I'm seeing right here after hours. Okay, Flutter third quarter revenue, 3.79 versus 3.86. That's a miss. Flutter sees fiscal year adjusted EBIT of 935 million. That's down from 1.25 billion. Third quarter monthly players, 14.1 million versus 14.7 expected. They are now unveiling a new prediction markets platform with FanDuel, and Flutter shares are down 5% after hours on missing on revenue. This is kind of the same take I had yesterday with Jason about DraftKings. I am not that bullish on the gambling stocks simply because I think Kalshi and Polymarket, in addition to Robinhood, I don't want to say they're taking away their users because maybe I would have never been a DraftKings user if I had never learned about prediction markets. But I do think some of the excitement and momentum on those trades are being put into prediction markets, especially the sports prediction markets. And that's volumes that's not going to Flutter or to DraftKings. And so that could be a broader issue for those stocks. I mean, the fact that it's missing on users and revenue is not nice to see, especially adjusted EBITDA missing by almost 300 million right there, 250 million. That one is going down. Now, granted, I don't think DraftKings is going out of business anytime soon. It's just the super bull case on holding this long term with prediction markets getting as much popularity as they have might not be as strong. CoreWeave right there, that's up a little bit after hours, down 3.5%. And then IREN, slightly red after hours as well. That's what we got. That is what we've got for earnings. Let's get a couple of tech headlines. I'll see if we get any 13Fs or 13Gs. Again, it might end up showing out tomorrow, but those are some of the main headlines we have. First of all, let's get a little bit of macro data, particularly on mortgages. Oh, we were talking about Fannie saying that, hey, Fannie Mae saying that, hey, maybe the 620 credit score should be relooked, bring that down. Today, there's some headlines saying that, well, we should have movable mortgages. So basically, if you have a 2.75% mortgage on your home that you bought in 2020 and you want to move, the White House is exploring a way, as per Politico, to take that same rate and the same lender you have and bring it to a new house. Can the Federal Housing Administration make that possible? Yes. Is that the healthiest thing for the economy? I don't know. That would be a moving mortgage, and that could be something that the White House is thinking of, making housing more affordable.
Some movement on the housing front with demand for mortgages ticking up last week. Diana Olick has the numbers for us. Hi, Diana.
Hey, Court. Yeah, even though we're heading smack into the slowest season for housing, homebuyers seem to be making maybe one last gasp, likely because of more supply on the market and softening prices. Mortgage applications to buy a home rose 6% last week to their strongest pace since September, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. Now, volume was 31% higher than the same week 1 year ago. This despite the fact that the average rate on the 30-year fix for conforming loans rose to 6.34% from 6.31% for loans with 20% down. That rate, though, is 52 basis points lower than it was a year ago. Purchase demand rose for all loan types, conventional, FHA, and VA, as potential homebuyers continue to shop around for the best deals. Now, as for refinance demand, not so much. It had been strong last month, but dropped 3% for the week, still 147% higher than the same week a year ago, thanks to those lower rates. The average loan size for refis also dropped as higher rates offer less savings. Okay, so what about this week? Well, rates have actually come down a little bit to 6.29% on the 30-year, according to Mortgage News Daily. That is likely due to the impending end of the government shutdown. But the big question remains, what happens when we start to get all that economic data from the government that we missed during the shutdown? And Courtney, how will markets react to that?
So that is one thing that the government is thinking about. Maybe there's a world in which we can make mortgages more affordable, or at least home payments more affordable, if we were to allow them to be portable. And in other countries, this has been happening for a long time. This might be one of the routes that the US government tends to look at, along with those 50-year mortgages that they were talking about. Mortgage rates are coming down, though, which is nice. It's not anywhere below 6%, but the amount of demand that's coming in is good enough to at least get them to start ticking a little bit down. SBET earnings, we got those numbers. Revenue is up 1,100% year over year. They did about 10 million in revenue, net income 104 million, EPS of 62 cents. Crypto assets are 3 billion. ETH holdings are 817,000 for SBET. And then 1.5 billion share repurchase program from the board. The market cap on SBET is 2.2. Their ETH holdings are 3, in addition with their cash. And they only spent about 31 million of the 1.5 billion authorization to date. But they also are staking, which is allowing them to generate more revenue. So there you go. I mean, look, I don't know how, I mean, obviously BMNR is in a different league in terms of the level of ETH that they're buying, but ultimately this depends on ETH going higher for us to see any bit of move. Ethereum right there, 34.17. And then Bitcoin right here at 101.7. And that's what you're seeing on some of the crypto stocks. Here's another stat that I thought was really interesting as well, going back to this idea of risk on appetite in this broader bull market. So total quarterly options volume exceeded 3.5 billion in Q3 of 2025. That is up double over the past 5 years. It's up 10 points since 2023, and the 5-year average has been 49%. This is super bullish Robinhood, and we kind of saw that. I think last quarter they sold like 600 million contracts or something like that. And in October alone, they already did 260 million. So you have the overall market sentiment being a lot more attractive towards these Q3 trading contracts. And if that continues in Q4 in the options derivatives world, that would be important. But very bullish for the brokerages. In terms of the top 20 stocks that were traded today, 4 options. You had NVIDIA and AMD take number 1 and 2. Tesla, Palantir 3 and 4. Then you had Meta. Opendoor was number 6. SoFi, number 7. iBit, Apple, Amazon, MicroStrategy, Microsoft, Circle, Big Bear AI is up there. Pfizer, CoreWeave, Cisco, Iran, Oracle, and Google. These were your top 20 stocks that were traded in the options market today. NVIDIA and Tesla end up being 1 and 2 almost every. Well, NVIDIA is usually number 1 every single day. And then Tesla, 90% of the time is number 2. But today, you have AMD. AMD, again, 7% move, which is very nice to see for AMD. Steve, thank you for the $5 super chat. Thoughts on MicroStrategy? I'm up 100% on AMD and SoFi. I'm down 30% on MicroStrategy. Take profits and buy the dip, or do you think this will continue to MNAV of 1? I think it really depends on Bitcoin. I mean, a question about MicroStrategy is basically, to me, a question about Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin makes a move, I think MicroStrategy, you hold it, right? You even buy the dip if you really think Bitcoin's going higher. If not, which, I don't know. I mean, Bitcoin's got a month and a half to really make a meaningful move to end out the year. And if it doesn't, it is what it is. The fact that it's holding 100,000 is really important. There were some pictures I saw yesterday, or some wallet addresses. And this has been a trend over the past couple of months. Even Tom Lee's been talking about this, but you got a lot of OG holders, because you can track the date that someone acquired a Bitcoin given the transparency of the blockchain, from 2010 that are starting to dump at these levels. And like, who could blame them, right? They were buying at like 10 cents and they're getting to exit at 101,000. But you are seeing a lot more OG wallets dumping, and it is what it is. They're not going to hold on forever, but that could also be contributing to some of the selling pressure as well. So yeah, I think on MicroStrategy really just depends on Bitcoin. Rivian, how did that stock do? It was up 10% yesterday, down 2% today. Not too crazy. Wow, White House tweet, or not tweet, but quote. Is Trump live right now? Where is the White House getting these quotes from? Committed to providing $2,000 dividend to Americans funded by tariff revenues. They are not giving up on this $2,000 dividend. They are not giving up on this. The House is voting right now as well. Yeah, the House is voting as well, but the White House, $2,000 dividend to Americans funded by tariff revenues. Again, Besant said this would be if you make below 100,000, you would get this. Well, he called it a rebate. I don't know if it's a stimmy check or rebate, but White House is saying it's a dividend.
Manual is not a proper parliamentary inquiry to ask the chair to indicate which side of the aisle has failed under the Speaker's guidelines to clear a unanimous consent request, as was stated.
Okay, so they will be voting. I mean, I thought they were going to vote at night. If they're beginning the vote today, or like right now, oh, they're going to do a lot of speaking before the vote. That means we might get an answer in a couple hours.
Resolution.
House Calendar Number 46, House Resolution 873. Resolved that upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to take from the Speaker's table the bill H.R. 5371, making continuing appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes.
Okay, so in a couple hours, we should get news. Dude, if I have a feeling it doesn't pass. If it doesn't pass, oh my goodness, if it doesn't pass, it better freaking pass. The Democrats aren't going to vote for it, but the Republicans have enough. I think they have a margin of safety of 2 votes, if I'm not wrong. They can lose 2 Republicans and still get it passed. But that's it. If they lose more than 2, they're screwed. So I don't think we should have to worry about that. If that ends up happening, obviously it wouldn't be the best thing in the world, but definitely something we'll keep up with. Here's the news on Fed Collins. Again, another Fed president turning into a hawk and making the argument for why we shouldn't cut.
There. Talks about financial conditions, usually meaning the stock market. She says they're a tailwind for economic growth, and economic activity has been holding up quite well, she says. Additional monetary support risks slowing or stalling the return of inflation to the Federal Reserve's 2% target. There are downside risks to employment, she says, but they have not increased since the summer, and she's hesitant to ease further without evidence of a further weakening of the labor market. Wants to assess the effects of the easing, the 50 basis points of easing that the Fed has done since September to find out whether or not it's prudent to go ahead. Prudent, she says, to ensure inflation is on track to 2% before making further adjustments. The importance here, guys, it looks like there is now a critical mass of officials. I don't know if it's a majority, but a critical mass of officials either outright opposing a rate cut or suggesting the Fed should go more slowly. It's unclear if it's half of the 12 voters that you.
I'm going to do a poll in the chat, see what you guys think about if we're getting a rate cut or not. But as he said, you are getting a significant amount of people on this open market committee potentially saying we don't need a rate cut in December.
You need, or 6 of them, but it's close. This contrasts with a market that before Collins spoke moments ago and her headlines came out, there was a 64% probability of a December rate cut. It's now 61%. If the December inflation report comes out on time, that's a big if, it will be issued December 17th, and that's day 2 of the Fed's 2-day meeting. So, guys, this is really interesting at this point. There is definitely a divide on the Fed. It's a substantial divide at this point, where I would think you could have 3, maybe even 4 dissents if they do cut. And there may be as many as 5 or 6 who oppose a cut at this point. We're going to have to watch and listen carefully and then get this data, hopefully it's coming out from the government, to see if indeed either the labor market is holding up, as some say, or if the labor market is weakening substantially, or, of course, if inflation is under control. John?
All right. Steve, thank you. Yeah, not a lot of data coming to change their mind.
Dude, if we don't get this rate cut, oh my goodness. I don't think it means we go back to the lows of October, like 640 on the S&P. I just think any hope of a meaningful run towards the end of the year gets squashed. So it doesn't have to be bearish, but it's definitely not bullish, and that's the issue. And we're going to have to see what ends up happening, but they're not getting a rate cut is not going to be good. Yeah, that Santa Claus rally is going to be a little cooked. I don't see any 13Fs. I guess they're not coming out today. No, nothing on my side. I don't have Stanley Druckenmiller. I don't. All of these, the last ones that were updated were November or June 30th. The only recent one we have is Michael Burry. And I know people are quoting BlackRock and stuff. Again, guys, BlackRock buys a lot of stuff. BlackRock is not like Ray Dalio or Howard Marks that is having a subjective opinion on a stock, and they're imposing their opinion by buying or selling the stock, and you can infer what you want to infer from Stanley Druckenmiller's opinion. BlackRock, Vanguard, Jane Street, I mean, these guys kind of have to buy and sell everything at some point. So I don't think it's the most useful thing to look at what Goldman or JP Morgan or BlackRock are buying. But it's really useful to see what Tepper is buying. I mean, you followed Tepper into the China trade back in summer of 2024. You made a lot of money. So those are the people I more so care about. Doesn't look like it's today. Oh, we just got one just now. This guy manages 3.2 billion. It looks like he did nothing. Is that correct? Literally just got one. Tomorrow we're gonna get a lot more of them. Amid all your polls split into 70-30, the morning of a red day turned out wrong. Did most people bet red today? Oh, we did end up going green. I mean, we ended up red on certain stocks, but we ended up green on the S&P. 67% of you say yes, we get a, that's close to the probabilities on the Fed tracker at 65%. So people are betting we get this rate cut. It looks like this guy did nothing. Himalaya Capital, Li Lu. He manages 3.2 billion. Is this the guy? Dude, this guy is epic. Li Lu. Did you guys know this guy? Himalaya Capital Management. It looks like he did nothing. Google, Berkshire, Bank of America, Apple, and Oxy, and then Pinduoduo. Didn't buy or sell anything, apparently. Either this is not updating or... No, maybe he did nothing. Maybe he just... Usually it updates immediately. He's Buffett's good friend. Oh, that's why he has $500 million of Berkshire, dude. Li Lu is the founder and chairman of Himalaya Capital. It was founded in 1997. Oh, wow. We embrace the value investment principles of Benjamin Graham, Warren Buffett, and Charlie Munger, and today primarily focus on traded companies in North America. We aim to achieve superior returns by being long-term owners of high-quality companies with substantial economic moat, great growth potential, and run by trustworthy people. Some of our holdings date back to 20 years ago. Okay, well, he didn't do anything in Q2. He kind of stayed steady. Berkshire, Bank of America, Google, Pinduoduo, and Apple. That's what he did, or that's what he holds, and doesn't look like he made a move back and forth. Charlie Munger gave him money. Dude, you guys know the Indian guy that what's it, Monish Purbai? That guy, I mean, I think he's a very important investor, and I like listening to him, but I mean, his portfolio has not really been doing much. I mean, he owns 3 things, and he doesn't really, he owns 5 things. And from my understanding, he has not really beat the S&P over the past decade. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is his portfolio, Monish Purbai. And he only manages 270 million. And I'm saying only, metaphorically, but still, it's like you would think the guy would manage a lot more. Valeris, HCC, AMR, NE, and AutoNation. Obviously, he's not touching any of the big tech stocks or anything like that. But this guy is like a legit disciple of Munger. His story is he got invited to a dinner, or he paid to go to a dinner in 2007 with Buffett for like some charity. And he got to talking to Munger, and they became such good friends. And then Munger basically became his mentor at that point. But those are his 5 names. You could do that, admit you manage 500 million. Dude, if I had 500 million to manage, wouldn't it be so much fun just to like swipe up and buy like 100,000 shares of a stock on Robinhood? And that's like 0.01% of your 500 million. Dude, that would be legit. That would be so much fun one day. It'd be so much fun. But that's what we got. All right, so I don't think we're getting any other 13Fs or 13Gs. Tomorrow, we should get a lot more of them. But that's kind of the main stuff we're seeing. Again, we looked at these ETF inflows very high. Also, Basen was talking this morning about the Trump accounts for kids that's going to be live starting this year.
And then the other thing you're going to see in the middle of the year are these Trump accounts. Every child born retroactively to January 1, but for the next 3 years, is going to get a $1,000 account that's going to be invested in the U.S. stock market. So that's another $1,000 for working families.
So yes.
See, the problem here is, and again, I think the administration is really trying hard to figure this out, but no one cares. No one cares that kids are getting $1,000 invested into the S&P 500. We care. If you people who are investors here that are watching that have kids, you probably care. But the average American is not going to think that life is becoming more affordable because $1,000 for my newborn child is getting invested into the S&P 500 that, 20 years from now will generate a return. As great of an idea as it is, and I applaud Brad Gerstner for championing it, and it's only $3.5 billion for the government, so it's a very small expense. I don't know if that combats the affordability narrative because the payoff is so far from now. And you need a lot of compounding for that to make more sense. Now, I think it's super bullish. Robinhood and Schwab and Fidelity, all the brokerages, right, that are going to get a piece of that. But we're going to have to see long-term how much it affects the broader American people. Imagine a baby getting a margin call. I think you have to invest in like an S&P 500 index fund. You can't like do anything with it. So many people would just YOLO that $1,000 into like calls or something. But that is something that the administration is going to be doing. What do you think about Zeta? I bought a little bit of Zeta today. I think valuation is very compelling. I'll put up a one-pager of it tomorrow, and I'll show you guys. If anyone wants to listen, I'll link it right here in the chat. We did a Twitter Spaces with Ronnie. I thought he did a great job on it. Davis, friend of the channel, he's been screaming about Zeta for the past couple months. I haven't really had the time to look into it. But over the past couple weeks, I was like, you know what? Let me look at it, especially after their growth updates on Q3. There are some really compelling arguments for why it's cheap. But as with anything, if the market takes a hit, also it's up 9% this year. So it's not some high flying stock that's gone up like crazy. I mean, it's like relatively been tame all year and they've just kept beating expectations. So I'll put out a one-pager tomorrow so you guys can read it. But that Twitter Spaces, if people want to hear 30 minutes on it, you can listen to that. Give each baby a BMNR leap. Yeah, exactly. 100%. There was a short report. That's correct. There was a short report. There's a court case. Obviously, got to do a lot of DD to go deeper into it. But, like with many stocks, there's tons of short reports and lawsuits and things that you ultimately have to look past if you're bullish. And if you're not, then that keeps you from investing. Yeah, I'm not seeing any other 13Fs. Let me see if Brad Gerstner's 13F is out. Brad Gerstner, 13F. I'm curious if he bought or sold more Hood. Obviously, we know that was a big. I think he added like 300 million of Hood last quarter. Nope, still not out. We're gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to wait a day or two for this data. His top 5 holdings, by the way, Gerstner, ARM, IOIT, Hood, TSM, and NVIDIA. So he's pretty bullish on those core 5. The fact that Hood's a top 5 is wild, dude. Like Hood is not a top 5 holding in any of these super investor funds. Neither is Palantir, by the way. You do not. Hood and Palantir are starting to have like better institutional ownership, but you really don't see them show up in the top 5. He also has 1 million shares of Meta. He added 41,000 last quarter. He did recently say that he's been trimming, so I wonder how much he trimmed. NVIDIA, he has 8.2 million shares. Uber, they have 5.9 million. Hood, they have 3.2. Zillow, they have 2.3. And then Microsoft, they have 1 million shares as well. So that's what we got, and we'll see over the next 2 days if we get more of these 13Fs. I'm talking about Brad Gerstner. Brad is the managing partner of Altimeter Fund. All right, guys, I think that's it for me. I do have to leave a bit early today. I have an event in New York that I'll be talking about probably next week. So I'm going to get out of here. I don't think we have anything else that's going on right now. Tomorrow we have a few earnings, and I think we'll have a lot more of these 13Fs tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Nubank. Dude, ironically, last time we got the 13Fs was the same day that Nubank earnings came out. I remember because Tanner was live, and Nubank ended up delaying the earnings, and he had to. I was in this apartment. I was moving in, and my phone wasn't working, so I couldn't go live. So Tanner was like covering all the 13Fs that came out that day. It's the same day of Nubank. So it looks like that might happen again. You have Nubank, Applied Materials, Red Cat, and QMCO, Quantum Corporation. Is this another quantum stock? I've never heard of these guys. QMCO. Okay, if it is a quantum stock, the stock price is not really reflecting the other quantum stocks. This one's down 80% this year. But those are the companies that we're going to have tomorrow for earnings. Disney tomorrow morning, correct. Disney tomorrow morning. Yes, NVIDIA in a week. NVIDIA in a week. Say hi to Mamdani. That would be funny if I run into Mamdani. It is not a date. It's actually it's a really cool event, and I'll tell you guys about it soon. I gotta figure out if I'm officially like kind of involving myself in this opportunity, but it's really cool. It's similar to what I was talking about with what I told you guys I was talking about with Triple V yesterday, and kind of getting his advice on some stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna do that today, and then we'll be back tomorrow. No, it is not a grinder event. It's not a grinder stock meetup. It is not a sauna party to talk about insider trading. Goodness gracious, bro. No, I'm not joining the Freemasons, bro. Some of these guesses. It's not another root canal, thank goodness, dude. But yeah, I'm not wearing my flip-flop. This is one of those events you can't, I mean, I could wear my flip-flops. I don't think anyone would care technically, but I probably shouldn't wear my flip-flops. So I'll not be wearing them. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow. Daily recap also will be posted later today, and we'll go through everything that happened. S&P 500 ended green for the day, 683.38. Tomorrow we'll get a lot more of those 13Fs, 13Gs exposure. What am I trying to say? Disclosures we'll get. And we'll see what exposure, based on the disclosure, these companies have or these investors have to some of the more important stocks in the market. So far, I haven't seen anything crazy. I mean, you're literally seeing some investors that have made zero moves. So tomorrow we'll get a lot more of those disclosures. And then we have earnings. That's pretty much it. We also might get some macro data. I mean, the White House is saying we're not going to get CPI and jobs data, but you might get some parts of data tomorrow. And so that stuff will be important as well. Freudian slip, exposure party. Goodness gracious, dude. Siege, thank you. Appreciate the super chat. If I end up taking this opportunity, it's not going to take away anything from the show. It's a really, really good opportunity, to be honest. And, potentially it's going to involve you guys in a way. I don't want to say what it is, but like in a week, I'll probably talk about it. I got to sign the paperwork. It's not a brand deal, not a sponsorship, nothing crazy like that. I'm not getting paid on this at all. But it's a cool, in my opinion. That's why I called Triple V yesterday. I was like, do you think, because I'm very conscious of the career moves I make, do you think this would be a good career trajectory move in the context of networking and getting access to different types of people that I don't have access to? And he was like 1000% yes. So it's not joining CNBC or Bloomberg. It has nothing to do with media, to be honest. I know I'm being vague about it, but it's nothing to do with media, and it's nothing that would stop me from doing the show every day. But it would make 2026 a lot more exciting. So I think it'll be cool. I'll let you guys know. No, I'm not a CNBC. Guys, trust me, it's not a CNBC contribution. It's like, Triple, he was asking me about that. Yes, he was like, would you ever want to do CNBC? I was like, nah, dude. Like having my own show on CNBC is like boring, bro. Having a live stream, when I can mispronounce words every day, like that's way more exciting. So no, it's not writing a book. It's not anything in the media space. But I think it'll be cool. It'll be cool. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, next week. Okay, cool. That's it. I got to get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate it. Are you finally going to learn English? I should sign up for English classes, dude. I really should. I think that might be a better opportunity. So we'll find out. Ahmed, thank you for the $20 super chat. I'm up over 55% on SoFi sold puts, $27 strike expiring December 19th, up 11,000. Should I close them or wait for expiration? It really begs the question, do you think SoFi will be above 27 by December 19th? And quite frankly, I cannot even say the market will be at this level on December 19th if we don't get a rate cut and if labor market data ends up weakening. So you're up over 55%. That's a pretty big win. You have to ask yourself, would you be comfortable owning SoFi at 27 if it ends up going back there? And given the price action, I mean, I don't think that's a horrible price. I bought around that price last week. And, are you confident that the 30s will hold? But the answer to those two questions determine if you would close those puts or not. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'm not going to be Tom Lee's secretary, dude. Every time I try to leave these comments, oh my gosh. These are great. Triple V is a friend. He's someone who donates a $200 super chat every other day. He's a very good friend of mine. I'm actually seeing him in New York. He's going to be in New York not today, but in a couple weeks. I think Steve is going to be with me to get dinner with him. So I'll be seeing him again in New York in a few weeks. Tom Lee's hair consultant. I need whoever Tom Lee's hair consultant is, quite frankly. That would be helpful for me. All right, that's it. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the Market Open. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.